Hello! Some of you may recognise this little bad boy as one of my my backup battery for my outboard, or my electric outboard, and it's been brilliant. And but rather stupidly, I forgot and left it on board. Let me just get myself on camera here. And those of you who've been following the channel might know that I've had a really bad back. I actually tore a ligament in my back, and so I hadn't been down to the boat for a few weeks, and unfortunately one of those weeks, or last week, it poured and poured and poured, and the boat did have a little, it was fine, but it had a little bit of water in it, and unfortunately these connectors here, I'm just being a little bit careful, I have cleaned them as best as I can, but these connectors here have kind of corroded. So here's the battery. I've got my trusty voltmeter out, and what will be key here is when we check the voltage across the battery is to just find out how much charge it's got left in it. If it's dropped too low, then that's when we might have trouble. So I'm going to try and do this without, this is horrendous. I'm going to try and do this without damaging anything else. I almost think the contacts are almost corroded in here. Let's see if we can get any kind of reading. Oh, okay. I think the contacts are completely corroded. But we are getting, hang on, we're going over, that's why. We need the voltage to be, we're in the wrong way. We need the voltage in the 200 range, not the 20. Aha, well, that is brilliant news. You may be able to see there that the voltage is still registering at 54 volts. This battery is slightly bigger than 48. But it works fine. Oh, that is unbelievable news. It means the battery is completely and utterly fully charged. Let's give it a go in here. It might be minus reading. Yeah, the same. That is great news. So I'll come down here. What that actually means is if the battery is fully charged, what we can try and do is get these connectors cleaned up. There's loads of corrosion in there at the moment, and then what we can do is actually just hook it up to the motor, check the battery works fine that way. So it's always hard getting these close-up shots on the GoPro, but I've got a range of tools here. This little nylon brush, so it's quite effective, this brush, at scraping away stuff like this, but it won't damage any metals or anything because it's nylon, not metal. I've got this little tiny little wire brush on here that can be quite good, but you've got to be very careful not to short out the connector with that, so I might not be using that. And then just a little spike. It's got like a square spike and a rounded spike on the other side, and all I'm going to do is going to be softly, gently as we sort of clear up the mess on these connectors. So the first thing I've noticed is you can see on the bottom of the connectors here there's a bit of corrosion. Now I'm pretty sure that's actually, because it should be sealed. Yeah, that could be corrosion coming through, through into the, where this, I forget what these are called, but these little, sleeves have been on. So I've cleaned it off on the outside there, but there still may be corrosion there. Now I've got, these are XT60s connectors. I've got plenty of these. We can always replace them. What we've got to be careful of doing though is making sure we don't short the battery out when we snip this across. So I can feel in there that we should be able to find the two separate wires. Yeah, from there we'll use a standing knife and we'll just cut down very gently, and then we can snip them out, and then we'd be able to put a new connector on here. Let's get a little bit of tissue paper. I just want to see how much of no, I was just about to say I wanted to see how much of the actual connector's still there, but I don't know if you can see. Look, the copper's gone from here, look, and here. And there's a little bit in there. Wow. So the copper's actually corroded away. I don't think the right word is corroded. I think the right word is electrolyzed away. So I think that's answered my question. I've actually got 2 connectors on here purely because it came with 2. I think it's because this one battery is designed to run 2 motors from it. And then this one is just designed to be the input. But to be honest with you, I could get rid of that wire completely and get rid of one of these completely. But I guess what would be better is if we could find some kind of way of capping these when not in use. So I've got a little knife here, and I've got to be super careful because, you know, doing this with 5 volt or even 12 volt is one thing, but doing it with 48 volts is quite another, and you don't really want to blow stuff up when it's 48 volt or 54 volt in this case. But we can very gently now see what's going on in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to snip these back probably there and there, and we're going to just put a new connector on these, and then we'll do the same on the other side. So you can see here I've potted these. Unfortunately, the video I just did, GoPro was on there. Time lapse. It's so easy to get on the wrong setting on these GoPro cameras. Anyway, you can see there's one that the connectors are completely empty, and this is one where they've been potted, and all that means is you've heated the connectors up and filled them with solder. And you have to be careful when you do this, because you need to heat them up enough for the solder to melt and adhere to them, but you don't want to heat them up too much, otherwise they can actually melt the plastic connector that they're in, and that just means you've got to throw it away and try again. Right, next job is we'll get this wire connected to one of these connectors, and then we'll repeat the process and do the other one. So because these wires are so thick, because they've got to carry 48 volts, it's so hard to twist them. So what I'm going to do is just solder the wires. This will also make them, so I'm just going to, what I mean by that is that I'm just going to saturate the wires with a bit of solder. So I'm now just going to cut this sheath off here a little bit. I've got to be really careful not to short these out. So I've got to be really careful not to touch the other wire. I think it's 2.5. We don't need much. There we go. Whoop. Very, very fiddly. I'm not like a master solderer by any means, so my soldering technique probably leaves a lot to be desired. But that I'm very pleased with. That's gone in and sunk in quite nicely. That one didn't go quite so well, but everything's in. Let's have a little look at that. Everything's in. Good, so that's the soldering of this side done. And now I'm just going to sheathe that up, making sure that sheath doesn't go too far. You do need like asbestos fingers to do this, which through my plastics work over the years has given me. So that's one connector gone. We could actually go and test this now, but I think with this connector just gone, I'm going to do the same. Repeat the process, get this connector done, and then we'll take it over to the outboard and we'll get it tested. So there's 2 connectors done. Now this, as I was doing this, I was just bending this little connector out the way, and it actually I found that this had been corroded as well. So it actually fell off, and as it fell off, it shorted the battery out. There was a big spark, but fortunately, I have just checked, this battery has like a short protection on it. Actually, most lithium batteries should do. So all I'm going to do now is snip these wires back, get them sealed, and then we're gonna get them properly put away inside some nice sheathing. So what I'm gonna do here is just split this sheathing very carefully. The trick with stuff like this is to just be slow and steady. Don't try and rush it, which is always my problem, to be frank. Remember that your fingers can short these things out as well. I don't really know if you can see this. So I'll use the cutter to push the wire back. Up. Snips about 2 mil of wire there. And then look, it's kind of self-sheathed itself, which is quite nice. For good measure, we're going to put a little bit of electrical tape on here as well, just to be super duper duper double sure, because if these are ever dipped in water, then you know that's when the problems will occur. Okay, last job on this little connector is always needs a bit more oomph to get going, this. I'm just going to melt these. There we go. You can see the glue actually coming out there. So I'm hoping that will create a nice seal. Whoop, and this is the bit where if you haven't got asbestos fingers, you're going to feel it. And I'm hoping we can just push those ends together. There we go. And that will create a nice little seal there. And we're going to further seal that up. So at this point, we have now got safe connectors. Okay, I can still short these out, but it's very difficult to do that. The next job now is I'm going to actually maybe try and bend that over and get these sheathed up inside, and we're going to try and make these a little bit closer together. Just tidy it up a little bit. I think it's a bit messy, this whole thing. So I've just bent this one over. I'm going to sheathe this and then seal the ends again using that same technique. Right. So again, we're going to just push that together. Oh, it's hot. Push this together. And then we should be done. There. And then we're just going to make sure that end is sealed nicely. And this end just looks tidy. It's giving it a bit of strength. There. So, there we go. Finished bar testing. And one last thing that we've got to do is also, I would like to make some little tops to these caps so that when they're not in use, we've got a fighting chance of keeping them waterproof, because we don't want this to happen again.